This is not my body. This is not my body.
You finish this.
So how's it going, Jesse?
All good today. Getting excited for tomorrow.
Awesome. I know. I mean, this is like the end of an era. I mean, with this being Bruce Willis's last film, and I gotta say, this movie was really good. I loved the whole story and the whole execution and all the little twists and turns. I mean, I think this was the perfect vehicle for him to say farewell to his career with, and what better movie?
Oh, thanks. I mean, we didn't know that it would be the last at the time. And, it certainly wasn't the last that he filmed.
Right.
And I think it's just, it's very interesting, like you said, just talking about where he's at and, where he was at when he signed on to the film, which was, I think that he knew that he was going to be making his last few films. And I think that, that in particular, that knowledge, really translated into, I think, why he really responded to this. Because there's some interesting parallels without saying too much more.
Exactly. So how did the idea come about for the film?
The idea came about for the film, as always, with some great brainstorming sessions between me and my writing partner, Aaron Wolfe. And, we had spent a significant amount of time in Israel, and we had a lot of acquaintances who, were in the military, and we would see them start their day, with just, regular civilian coffee in the morning, this and that, and then, put on a flak jacket, a gun, a helmet, and then they were gone and they were at war for the day, and they would come back at night and revert back into their civilian life. And the idea of, and the idea of being in a war that is different than, what we're used to, especially in the US, of like, okay, a soldier's going off to war, they're in another country, they're separated, and then they're going to come back and reclaim their identity. And this kind of ping-ponging of civilian soldier, and ping-ponging back and forth between those identities, gave us a lot of inspiration to see, what is that really going to look like mentally and psychologically when we look at that through a sci-fi lens.
Yeah, what I really liked was the premise that you can actually tap into someone else's brain and virtually like do what can basically control them, which is what the case. And I found that fascinating. You don't really get to see anything like that in a film. As far as I know, I don't, but this was a great idea. And I love the story about Nonzamo's character, where she's trying to figure out, who did this to her husband. And she was phenomenal. I mean, I know she's virtually new, but she made such an impact in this movie. I mean, what was it like working with her on the set?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, it's funny because Nonzamo is new to us in this country, but she is a South African superstar. She's one of the biggest actresses in South Africa. She's also just an amazing person, a UN humanitarian. She does a lot of charity work. She does a lot of global awareness. She was doing a lot of work during the pandemic. And she's just a fantastic person. And I think that really what was intriguing to me was, I think that when I look at casting people, I definitely believe in the idea that interesting people are interesting actors, and Nonzamo was just a fascinating person to me. And also, the honesty and earnestness that Nonzamo is just so sweet and so earnest in real life. And I knew that, obviously, an actor can take a character in a million different directions, but if we had that really base layer, just being able to connect to her emotionally, we were going to be in such a strong starting position for what I wanted to achieve with the film. Is, I didn't want to just do, oh, she's a badass killer and now she's going to go out and do her assassin.
Yeah, exactly.
I really wanted to have the dynamic of, positioning her with an actual emotional human want and desire. And that's when the concept, for me and Aaron, that's always when the concept starts to come alive, when we're able to merge the high-end sci-fi concepts with really grounded human feelings. That's
Exactly.
when we know we're in the sweet spot.
Exactly. I feel and that's what I like today. I mean, back when I was growing up, the action hero had to be tough and, hard edged and all that. But now we're getting more human, realistic heroes, ones who have flaws, one who's going through emotions. And you said it yourself. I mean, she did a great job on this because while, she's trying to figure out who did this to her husband, at the same time, once she taps into Andy Allo's brain, it's like that human side starts to come out when it comes to her scenes, when Andy scenes with Dominic Purcell, who I gotta say, I usually see him playing these tough guys. And yeah, there's a bit of toughness in him in the film, but he also shows this charming, good-natured side that we rarely see, and like I rarely see him in his performances. But here he brings like something different.
Well, yeah, there's a lot that you just said that I'd love to touch on. But Dominic, my initial conversations with him, he was so excited because he said, this is something that I don't usually get to do on film, and obviously a lot of people know him, and from obviously Prison Break is so iconically Dominic, and he was just such an excited person to come to the script and had tons of ideas. And again, just like what I was saying with Nonzamo, just really wanted to play against type. We really wanted to put human beings in these situations and really make sure that we're dealing with three-dimensional people all the time, especially with what you were saying about Nonzamo. We really leaned into the idea of she's not like the super soldier, she's not like the most high ranking, she is a very regular person from middle America. Her house looks pretty plain and normal, her car looks pretty plain and normal. She's not quite cut out for this. And I think that the further away that you can go from like the trained specialists and the super secret soldiers and the Bournes,
right.
Especially for the kind of sci-fi that Aaron and I like to write, I think that's what really helps it come alive. So I'm glad that you were picking up on that.
It's awesome. And I gotta say, man, Bruce Willis made the most of his role. I love that, I know he was the boss, and then, he had some of the detractors, but he was like, she can do this. He had all his faith in her in that character. When it came to his character, he supported her, even though we kind of know that she was slowly starting to, fall for her. But then he still figures, I trust her, though. I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. And like I said, he just made such an impact. And I'm still shocked to this day. This is going to be his final role. But I mean, he went out with a bang. I don't mean that literally, but still, I mean, he brought it like 125%, like he always does.
Well, it was just awesome, to work with the legend, right? And I think that in the initial conversations with himself and his team, I think everybody recognized something very special about this film. First of all, I think he was just down to show up and say, you know what, I am an icon in this space, in this action thriller space, in this sci-fi space, and I want to be here and show up and kind of godfather in this, young and up and coming filmmaker, and these this younger cast that's on the up and up. And I think something that really resonated for both of us, and Bruce and I were able to touch on it briefly, but like you look back to something like 12 Monkeys, and he's just that poor soul up in that high chair, and scientists are poking at him and prodding him and telling him, hey, you got to do this thing, and we're going to make sure that you're all right. Yeah. And we'll be there for you. And now in this movie, he's passing the torch. Nonzamo as Alexa is in the bathtub, just like he was in the chair, and now he's on the scientist side,
Exactly,
looking in on her and making sure that she's going to be taken care of and giving her all the pushes that she needs. So it was a nice kind of progression, as I think, as Bruce was saying, what am I going to do for my final few films?
right. And you say yourself, you just nailed it. Well, I was just going to say it was a passing of the torch. And I'm familiar with South African cinema, and I gotta say, Nonzamo, I'm glad that she's now making waves here. Just like back we had Charlize Theron and Arnold Vosloo. They came from South Africa, and they hit it big in Hollywood. I'm glad she's gonna be the next one. I know after this is for sure. And and I'm just excited that we're gonna see more of her down the road as well.
Oh, me too. I can't wait to work with her again. And Andy and Mustafa and Dominic.
Oh
And
yeah.
sadly, I won't be working with Bruce again. I wish, my only regret is that I can't just sit down and have a beer with him and we can just sit back and enjoy the work that we did together. But it was such an honor to have him.
That's awesome. So how long did production take, and did you face any challenges during production that you had to come up with a plan B?
Well, production is always a million different moving pieces. I think that we're an indie film, but nothing longer or shorter than any of our peers. But I think that there was a bit of a scramble leading up to production. There were a few different locations in consideration. And there were a lot of rewrites because there was talk of going to Vancouver, there was talk of going to Hawaii, there was talk of Alabama, and we had to wait for a couple of pieces on the financial side to kind of solidify. But there were a lot of different elements that were constantly in flux in the script, and I would say that one of the challenges that proved to be an actually exciting challenge to embrace was just, with Aaron, as we were looking at these different places and we're like, okay, well, if we're in Hawaii, then this scene is going to be like this, and it's going to be in an orange grove. But if it's here, then it's going to be in an industrial warehouse and this and that. And it was so freeing and so exciting to just relax into the fact that we knew that in our script, we were confident that the way that we had written things, that the themes were so strong and that the dialogue was in the right place and everything was there the way that we envisioned it, and seeing how easily we could transpose it amongst these different locations just made us feel really rock solid about the script.
That's awesome, and I'm glad that this is out, and I'm stoked that it's coming out tomorrow. So finally, what's next for you after this movie that you can talk about?
Well, there's a lot that's coming up next, but unfortunately I can't talk about any of it at this moment. But you will be seeing a lot more from me and my frequent collaborators.
That's awesome. Well, guys, Assassin is coming out tomorrow. And guys, this is the end of an era. And if you are a fan of Bruce Willis, and I know there are plenty of them out there, this is the film you guys need to see. And he does definitely passes the torch, and you got to look out for Nonzamo Mbatha. She is phenomenal in this movie. And Jesse, man, you did a great job with the script and directing this whole thing. And as we say farewell to Bruce, now we're bringing more blood in, and we can't wait to see more of your work. And so thank you so much again for taking the time to talk about it.
Of course, really appreciate it.
All right, well, you take care.
Thanks, you too.
All right, bye.